Would you like to sing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar and be better off than you are? Or would you rather be a mule? Now a mule is an animal with long funny ears. He kicks up at anything he hears. His back is brawny and his brain.
Greetings, peeps. Welcome to week 2 of fall semester. I hope that each of you had an absolutely bodacious holiday weekend and that you have an opportunity to get out and enjoy some beautiful weather and some friends, some family, and just had some time to relax and reflect. But now it's time to get back to work. We all have to get there. I'm sorry, but that is the way it is. So, welcome back. So we're going to, in this vid, focus on navigating around e-learning and our online text. So before we begin that, let me just say I'm truly sorry about all the difficulties with registering the online text. That was just a calamity of errors, and some of it is still going on. We're really working hard at resolving all of these issues. It seems that the majority of you have been able to register and log on. Some of you may still be experiencing difficulties. If you are, please get in touch with me. One of the things I encourage people to try is to clear their cache memory or clear their browser history. Sometimes that works. So, but again, if you're having difficulty, please get in touch with me, and do understand I'm adjusting due dates as necessary. So, I mean, if you can't log on, you can't access the material, you can't complete the assignment. So, be advised, I am aware of the issues and I will adjust due dates. So please don't worry. You won't be penalized for not being able to look at your stuff. Okay, so let's take a minute and let's take a look at our e-learning site and navigating around it and navigating on our online text, and then we'll come back and we'll do a little bit of a lecture on the origins, or actually on what Jazz actually is. Okay, so sections 1 and 2, for example. Okay, so we'll see you in just a little bit.
Okay, peeps, let's take a look at navigating around our e-learning site and our online text. I know for some of you, probably many of you, this is old news, but for those of you that might just now be joining us and might just now be having access to your online text, perhaps this will be helpful and will clarify some points for you. You can see once you log in, you'll be brought to this, once you log into e-learning and you click on MUS 118 or Jazz History, you'll be brought to this page, which is our course's homepage. And here's where some announcements will be. You can see this last announcement I had on here was to please try the online textbook link again. And as many of you know, we continue to have some problems, but it looks like many of those has been resolved, and that many of you are actually able to access our online text. So if you are still having difficulty, as I say before, please continue to email me and I will put you directly in touch with the folks at C4E with their OIT people. Okay, once though you have the text, you've registered, all you have to do is go to our Contents tab. Now, one of the things that I wanted you to keep in mind is that you have this detailed course schedule. I did update it recently. You may have gotten a notification about that. So I had some old dates in here. I'm not sure why they were still there, but now everything on the course calendar should be up to date. We are currently working with section 1 and the fundamentals of music and jazz foundations. So music basics 1 and music basics 2 from our online text. And then, of course, there is a quiz that you need to finish, and you need to finish, obviously, all the readings and so forth by Saturday, a week from this Saturday. So Saturday, September 16th is when all of that needs to be completed. Again, I stress to you, you do not have to wait until that Saturday to take that quiz. You can take it and complete the work at any time up to that date. But you cannot, for example, complete the quiz on Sunday, September the 17th, because it'll be closed. In fact, we will be beginning section 2, the essential features of jazz and the blues, beginning on September 10th. So that is this Sunday, and you will have until September 23rd to complete those courses or classes, if you will, and of course taking that quiz on September 23rd. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense, but let's get right to our online textbook link. And when you click on that link, you should be brought to this page. Click on the link to our online text, and a new window should open with our online textbook right there before you. Okay. So one of the things I think I pointed out in an earlier vid, but let's just point it out again. Notice how all of the sections are labeled, and you have classes within each section. So let's just take a look at section 1, the fundamentals of music and jazz foundations. You know, there's introductions here that you can read. There's a short little video that you can play for yourself if you want to, entirely up to you, or you can get right into the thick of things by looking at what they have here. Now, this particular area is demonstrating musical concepts and using the piano keyboard as a frame of reference. One thing I wanted to point out to you was these little tools, these little buttons that say show me. So if you click on this, you might have some notes that are not playing, and that's okay. Let's do this one. It's showing you and demonstrating for you what a half step is, and so is this one. It's highlighting the 2 keys, and you can even play them. For some reason, this key does not want to work, but that one will work. This one won't, but that's okay. And then it has another little interactive keyboard. And you can sit there and play it at your leisure if you want to. It also has, anytime you see a little speaker, it will demonstrate the sounds for you. So I encourage you to make use of that. And then it's got another little keyboard that is showing you how the half steps are laid out. And this has to do with a musical phenomenon known as enharmonics, meaning that each pitch or each key on the piano keyboard can have more than one letter name associated with it. For example, here you have both D flat and C sharp. 2 different letter names, 2 different notes on the musical staff, but they sound exactly the same. So I'm going to let you read about these things because they're interesting. But folks, you're not learning how to play the piano. You're not going to be asked to play the piano. This is just for demonstrative purposes only. Now I'm going to include a link on our e-learning site that will be a video, an instructional video to the piano keyboard. It contains much of this information, but it's just presented to you a little bit differently. So I encourage you to avail yourself to these tools and watch the vid. Hopefully it will clarify things. The only reason I ask you to pay attention here is because obviously you're going to have a quiz at the end of it, and you're going to need to use that quiz. Or excuse me, you're going to need to take that quiz. So I'm going to give you another very useful tool, and that is the course pack to another course that I teach entitled Music Elements. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to use this course pack. And so I encourage you to keep multiple tabs open on your browser. As you can see here, I have our e-learning site and our online text open at the same time. There's no reason for you to not use tools that are made available to you to help you with quizzes, to help you with your understanding and knowledge of music. I am all for anyone using tools that are available to you. So again, I encourage you, use the tools here, like the Show Me. And I'm not sure why the D natural and the B natural are not sounding. We'll talk to C4E folks and try to find out about that. That's kind of weird. Okay, so, and then of course you have all kinds of wonderful tools like this. This is showing you what pitches are, where they are on the piano keyboard. This is called octave designation. And it is kind of cool. If you hover over a note, it'll play it for you and show you what octave designation it is. And it's entirely up to you how you want to do it. I'm not sure why A4 is not coming out. That's kind of weird. It should. B4 is playing there. Isn't that weird? So, oh well. But anyway, you get the idea. Oh, I see why. Because you can do either lines or spaces. Isn't that amazing? There's A4. So have fun with it. Play around with it. You know, and get to know. But again, I'm not asking you to learn how to play the piano keyboard. But there's some great tools in here for you to avail yourself to. For example, when we get to talking about rhythm, you may already have a good idea of what rhythm is. It's the way music moves and grooves. I don't really care for that phrase, but you know, hey, to each his own. To convey a more formal definition of rhythm, let's familiarize ourselves with a few concepts. For example, beat is the pulse that we feel in music, and here is an audible demonstration. Okay, and then it says tempo refers to the speed of the beat, i.e. how fast or how slow. That's a pretty quick tempo. That's also a pretty quick tempo, and I'm not sure what this is, but hey, look. Okay, so it's talking about pitch there. A note is an actual musical sound consisting of a pitch, but it also has duration, or how long the note is sounded. Rhythm is created by the notes we hear. Think of a tune. It is the succession of notes. We primarily associate a note with its pitch, but for the purposes of understanding rhythm, let's focus on the note's duration. In other words, how long it lasts. So again, I encourage you, read and experiment with these little tools that it gives you. And anytime you see a Show Me button, click on it. Take advantage of it. It will show you things. It will let you understand things. Here's a cool little tool. When you press this, the notes are going to go by, and it's going to demonstrate for you exactly what it sounds like. So what you have just seen and heard is something that enables you to see the notes go by, as well as the actual rhythm of the notes and the pulse of the meter, in this case, duple meter. Now, I clicked on the OMJ duple meter. I'm going to go back, or I'm just going to close this window. Well, actually, I don't have to close it out. it's still going on. But notice if you do that, it brings you to a big window. So you are welcome to look at this and view this as many times as you like. There are several examples, and I encourage you to avail yourself to those because they are useful. As I am the tools that I will put on e-learning under the module entitled Useful Links. Now, there's some million-dollar words in music. This one, anacrusis. I defy you to find a jazz musician anywhere in the country that will actually use that word. Although they might know what it means, nobody calls it that. We simply call it a pickup or the upbeat. Most musicians, jazz, rock, anyone that's trained is going to call this the upbeat or the pickup. You're never going to hear anybody call it an anacrusis unless they are trying to be a smartass. So, which I try to be every single moment of my life. Nevertheless, it's an upbeat or it is the pickup. The pickup is probably the most prominent use or prominent word. And you can see up here, it says the pickup is also known as the upbeat or anacrusis. Again, I say unto thee, it's always called a pickup. I would never use an anacrusis unless I was trying to be a smartass. Okay, but you can play this little example. And it's talking about syncopation, and it's giving you the reasoning behind it. And the paragraph here is true. What it says, ordinarily, rhythms reinforce the meter. That is, prominent notes occur on strong beats. And this is true. This is very accurate. Syncopation occurs when an accent falls on a note located on a weak beat or between beats. In such cases, the musician plays the off beat. Now, you do see some examples here, a little bit of a lecture, a little bit of talk about it. I will say to you, syncopation generated, with the onset of musical composition. It didn't just begin with jazz, but the primary usage of it that we sort of refer to, especially when we're talking about jazz, is the era of ragtime, or the style of music known as ragtime, and that's what this music is that you've been listening to, this entertainer. It was written by a composer by the name of Scott Joplin, and they will probably talk about that. In fact, I think if you click on this little link here, it brings up another window. And yeah, it brings you to maybe Spotify or some other type of musical resource that you might use if you want to hear the full thing. And the full thing is actually pretty cool. I encourage you to listen to it if you wish. We'll play just a little bit of it here, except my Spotify won't let me. I'm not sure why. Could have to do with copyright issues, I guess, or maybe it just... Oh, I see. My app is not up and running on this system, so that's why we're not getting it. Anyway, folks, you can YouTube it as well if you wish. There's a lot of wonderful resources available to us. Let's move ahead, and you can see here we have a summary talking about all of the things that we've discussed in this chapter. I encourage you, if you're having difficulty with any of these concepts, email me or take some time and look them up. Again, not all of these things are going to be in the course pack that I'm going to provide, or are they going to be on the link that I'm going to provide. But folks, I encourage you, use the internet, look it up, find somebody else's interpretation, because sometimes all it takes is to have something explained to you in a different manner. Okay, so I hope this has helped you. I hope this has clarified some things for you, and I certainly hope that everyone is able to access the online text by now. Stay tuned for a little bit of the lecture on this summary, and please do watch that video that offers an introduction to the piano keyboard. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Okay, so hopefully that was informative and helpful. Again, I can't stress this enough. If you are having issues, please continue to email me. We are working on it. We are aware of the problems, but sometimes we still kind of miss things. So please email me if you're having an issue, and we will get the folks at the C4E OIT help desk to help you out and resolve your issue as quickly as possible. Okay, so now we're looking at section 1 and section 2 of our online text. And you know, it's kind of funny when we think about jazz. If you've never listened to jazz music before, if you've never played jazz music before, and then all of a sudden you experience it, you may not like it. Some people, it used to be that people would say you either love jazz or you hate jazz. I don't necessarily subscribe to that opinion, because the same can be said, and has been said, of opera. Some people said you either love opera or you hate it. There is no in between. I don't really agree with that. I think that there are many subtle levels of appreciation for everybody. We're all different. We all have eclectic tastes. So, but what I am getting at here is some issues that you might come across that are preliminary to our actual look at jazz history. For example, the fundamentals of music, right? And I say this only because without knowing how to read music, without being able to play an instrument, it's difficult for us to evaluate how the music is constructed, and not only evaluate it, but assess its value. I know that kind of means the same thing, and now that I said that, I kind of feel stupid saying it. But anyway, the point is, how can you possibly analyze something and give an analytical analysis without knowing a little bit about what it is that you're talking about, such as music? So that's why this fundamentals of music and jazz foundations is in your text, and it is kind of important for you to look at and understand things as simple as the blues scale, for example. Now, I'm including a vid presentation that I produced for my music elements class, because they're learning the fundamentals of music as well. But this one addresses the keyboard, and it might be beneficial for you to watch this vid just to give you a little bit of an insight into how the piano keyboard is related to the fundamentals of music. And in specific, the basics of music, notes and rests and scales and so forth, because all of this mechanical stuff is present in jazz, whether it is written out specifically and literally or not is immaterial. It's still there. It still exists. Scales exist, notes exist, rhythms exist. So let's talk a little bit about the second section of our text, which deals with the essential features of jazz and the blues. Now, I would encourage all of you to come up with your own definition of what jazz is and what blues is. And you might be thinking, well, aren't they the same thing? Well, no, they're not. Why aren't they the same thing? Well, let me put it to you this way. Jazz can have blues elements, and blues can have jazz elements. And I'll let you chew on that for a while. Jazz is often something that is its own entity, as is blues. There are different types of jazz, and there are different types of blues. There are certain things that are interchangeable, certain things that cross over,
And this is where we delve into the realm of individualized tastes, where you might hear one piece of music that is definitively classified as jazz. Another person might say, no, 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 that is definitely blues. And believe me, there are many a long-haired argument that happens when musicians get together and argue the origins and the specific types. But nevertheless, jazz as an overall realm, in my book, encompasses blues. It's not necessarily the same thing, but it encompasses blues. It encompasses gospel. It encompasses rock, bebop, swing. There's a whole world of different styles that can be classified as jazz. There's even jazz pop. There are certain Broadway musicals that thrive on what we might call jazz. So I would encourage you to come up with your own specific definition of what you think jazz is and what you think blues is. And there's no right or wrong. It is simply your own interpretation. But considering what we have in section 2, what is jazz and what is blues? Well, again, that's why I'm asking you to come up with your own definitions. Are there differences? I think so. Are the differences enough to where we have to put them in completely separate categories? That's debatable. When we begin to look at the origins of what we call jazz, or the origins of what we might call the blues, we might begin to interpret what jazz is a little bit differently, and we might begin to interpret what blues is a little bit differently. I brought up a little while ago the blues scale, something for you to look at and understand how it functions, how it works, and why is it important? Why is it important to the blues? And why is it important to jazz? Now, throughout this course, we're going to be listening to various examples of jazz artists, but I think you'll agree. Let's say that the great American composer Scott Joplin probably wouldn't put him in the same category of jazz as, let's say, the great American composer George Gershwin. Likewise, I don't know that I would put someone on the order of Ella Fitzgerald, for example, a great American quote-unquote jazz artist, in with the great American vocal artist Ray Charles. Both of them giants, both of them amazingly terrific and wonderful musicians, vocalists, artists, and certainly influenced our jazz and our blue, indeed our visions of what jazz and blues might be. But two separate artists. And you could I'm sure you could name other artists. You could name contemporary artists. I mean, I don't know that we could say that Lady Gaga, for example, was a jazz artist. How would you classify her? As a pop artist? But indeed, there are some things that she does that I think sound like jazz to me. Billy Joel, Paul McCartney. All of these artists have I think, produced works of music that would encompass what we might classify as jazz. Now, obviously, if you're talking about somebody like John Coltrane, Etta James, I would say you're looking at what we might call definitive jazz, right? That's what, you know, if you're going to point to an example of what jazz is, well, this guy's work. But even at that, it's a broad spectrum. And I don't expect you to say, this is definitively jazz, and this is definitively blues, because sometimes they cross over. There's no reason for us to be that explicit about it. So when you are answering quizzes, when you are, you know, writing your papers about what you're listening to, be thinking of these things, because honestly there's a great deal of crossover. And in my mind, in my mind, if you think something sounds more blues than it does jazz, you should say so. And or vice versa. If you think something sounds more like jazz than it does blues, you should say so. So in my mind, again, there's no right or wrong here. It's left up to interpretation. So do come up with your own definitions and let me know what those are. We'll talk about that in an upcoming discussion topic, and I look forward to reading your answers. So hopefully this has been an informative session for you. We will have other lecture series pertaining to the topics in our book, and this is how it's presented to you through these video presentations. I'm hopeful that the rest of the video presentations won't be quite as lengthy, but you know, folks, you just never know. We got to get all the info in. So once again, if you're having difficulties, issues, any questions, whether it's about the online content, our text, or just any questions in general about our course, please email me. Okay? It's been great to be with you, and I will see you again soon.
Love makes me treat you the way that I do. Gee, baby, ain't I good to you? There's nothing too good for a girl that's so true. Gee, baby, ain't I good to you? I bought you a fur coat for Christmas, a diamond ring, a Cadillac car, and everything. Love makes me treat you the way that I do. Gee, baby, ain't I good to you?